Hey, guys, we got Ernest Epps here. He is freaking beast. First of all, man, he's a beautiful man. And this individual right here has done something that a lot of people want to actually do, and that's actually leave the prisoner camps of Cubicle America, right? So Ernest is a former cubicle prisoner himself turned entrepreneur, and he fired his boss within a year. And after he discovered this one simple method on how to actually work from home doing e-commerce. Ernest, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you for having me, Daryl. Absolutely amazing.
So bring us up to speed a little bit about where you're at. I know that you and I met roughly about 8-9 months ago now. It was at an event, and what really stood out to me about Ernest was at the time he was working part-time on his job, but he was working full-time on his passion, and that was leaving that cubicle side of it. And when I'll never forget sitting down and looking across at Ernest and him sharing with me how he literally left. I think it was on like a Friday, and he drove 10, 15 hours to get to Florida from Washington, D.C. area just to go to an event about e-commerce. He went to the event, and then Friday he tells me or was it Sunday night, he was making sure he was going to drive back so he could show up to work on Monday morning. I think he went straight to work, literally with the clothes he had on. So that's how bad this guy actually wanted it. So that's one takeaway right off the bat, guys, is you got to want it. And Ernest, man, I want to hear about your story about it. Where did you come from? How did you get on the scene, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so pretty much, I've been, chasing entrepreneurship for 6 years now, 7. And through the process, it's been a lot of, heartaches and failing forward. But you know what? I just always still had that fire, passion, and desire to want to pursue something. I know right around the time we had recently met, I was working full time still, like you said, but, I still had this itch to want to, do more for myself, like even while I was working full time. And honestly, like at that point in position where I was at, I had kind of given up on chasing like the entrepreneur side of things, simply because, like I said, I was, I tried stuff, didn't work, tried something else, that didn't work. And it was just, I just wasn't having a consistent success pattern. So I kind of given up on like the whole entrepreneur thing.
Tell us some of
And,
the, share with us some of the things you actually tried that didn't work out the way you actually want to, like really go into a little bit more detail on that. Because one of the things oftentimes is you said something that really stood out. You failed forward for 6 to 7 years before you figured this one thing out, the method you're going to share with us today about how you've gone out and been able to leave your job within a year. So there's a lot of people out there that are possibly listening to this, man. They're thinking the same thing. They're like, man, am I ever going to be able to get out of this rat race? Am I ever going to be able to break free, and have my own Shawshank Redemption, right? Because I know you had to crawl through some shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, even just like going back before I touch base on that, going back to like how we actually met, like driving down to Florida, like that was a huge commitment, for me to, I still had to work Friday, so I didn't get a break on Friday. I got off work, drove straight down for like 12 hours, went to the event, got a ton of information, ton of new knowledge. And, Sunday drove straight back, and literally I drove straight into work and had to work a 10-hour shift. So, definitely being just committed to the grind, because one of the things I've always been really good at is working. Like, I don't have a problem working. I love to work, then that's part of like creating success in general. Like, that's the first step. Like, you got to want to grind. You got to want to work. So that passion has always been there. But I was just using it for everything that I was doing, for other people in like, the corporate arena, job world. And that's how I was able to create some decent success, like full time. I got promoted to be a marketing director. I believe I was around that age, like 20, 21 years old, simply because the company was expanding, and, I was just one of the more qualified people simply because I was just outworking everyone else.
Where did you get that work ethic?
Really, man, it came from my mom. Like, my mom, she's just like someone that just, she just gets the job done. She doesn't complain about what she has to do. She just does it. And so, growing up, I've seen her work full time for the government. She's still working for the government. She has to commute an hour and a half to 2 hours. She gets up at 4:30 in the morning, goes to work, doesn't get off until 4:30 in the evening, but it takes her an hour and a half to 2 hours to get home, and sometimes even longer because she has to commute from Fredericksburg, Virginia to Washington, D.C. So have seen her do that, and then her and my dad had started a contracting business, and she, worked on that outside of work too as well, an additional like 30, 40 hours to help that become a successful business, taking care of the kids. She just made it happen, she never made excuses, even if she had to run on, 2, 3, maybe even just 4 hours of sleep consistently throughout the week. She just got the job done. So me just seeing her do that, and she never talked about it. She just did it. And so it was just like, why shouldn't I be able to go out and have that same level of commitment after, seeing mom do that? She's just in the wrong vehicle.
I'm tearing up over here.
That's the thing. She's in the wrong vehicle.
That's reminds me so much of my mom personally. I think my mom works her behind off. She worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. 3-4 nights a week as a nurse, and there's so many other people out there that are just working and they love what they do. They're passionate what they do. And I commend them for that. And having a mom like that in your corner as an example, and I bet, how proud is she of you right now, what you've actually done and what you're becoming and what you became?
Oh no, she's very excited, very ecstatic. Actually, I can't wait to, share this episode with her that we're on right now. She's anticipating listening to it, but yeah, she's very excited about the journey. And she's seen some of the failures and stuff that I had, like, making the commitments, going all in, and just stuff not working out. And so for me, like a couple businesses that, I started, actually started like a family company, remodeling business, with my dad, uncle, sister. We started a project, we had a couple people work for us, and, simply, some of those things, like they talk about not working with family and not being able to work out. It was like one of those situations where, everyone just couldn't get on the same sheet of music and, just didn't work out. Another business, actually the longest thing that I did was like network marketing. I had done like 2 different network marketing companies. One was like very, very short term. And then the other one, I did for about 5 years, and, a lot of failing forward through that. And, it just came to the point where I just told myself, how can I get a greater return on investment for my time? And so, I was just like, since I do really good working for the man, that's what I should continue to do. So,
yeah. So you just dropped a couple of key nuggets there. First of all, making sure you're in the right vehicle, right, for success, right? And second of all is like learning from I don't look to say there's no failure in life. There's only feedback, right? And you've got a lot of feedback to, propel you forward in some of the things you've actually learned. So those are 2 things: making sure you learn from the lessons, right, in your life, and then making sure you're in the right vehicle. And what was the defining moment where it was like, you're just going to go all in? I mean, have you always been like that your whole life, or was there a point where you're like, it was that call to action of like, man, I really need to do this? There's something that happened in your life that just kind of shifted your mind where you're like, no, I'm going all in. I'm doing this. This is going to happen. It's going to work. I'm determined. For somebody to get in their car and drive 12 hours to an event, and then, then drive 12 hours back and go right back into work. I don't even think you slept that weekend, because I know we were up late at night, like talking and everything else too.
Yep. Yeah, no, I would honestly, like, as far as like the mindset shift, like I've always had like just the right thought process when it came to like putting in like the grind, because like even when I was in high school, I did football, I did wrestling, I did track. I was in 4 different clubs. I was in FBLA. I was the vice president of Student Council Association. I was in the Forensics Club, and I was in the American Computer Science League. So, always was doing a lot of different stuff to keep busy, because that's just what I got to do. Like, I just got to stay busy, or, you just get distracted doing nothing. And that's the last thing that I want to do. But yeah, the trigger really happened, honestly, for me. I think I was right around, I want to say 2021, when I really got bit by like the true entrepreneur bug of like really wanting to own a business. I had picked up Robert Kiyosaki's 3rd book, which is The Guide to Investing, through his Rich Dad Poor Dad series. Mm-hmm. And that literally like blew my mind. I was just like on fire for learning this thing out, because I was just like, holy smokes, like no one ever told me any of this stuff. Like you can own a business, and there's like other benefits to owning a business, and I don't have to pay all these other crazy taxes and, stuff that like the W-2 people have to pay. And I'm just like, holy smokes, this is crazy. No one ever told me this in school. And so when I first actually read his book, I actually got mad because I was just angry because no one told me that in school. Like, I'm in the Future Business Leaders of America. Like, I'm in that club, and no one even really prefaced the fact of like what it really means to own a business. And nor did I think the person that was even like leading the club even knew what they were talking about in business. Now I think about it.
Yeah.
No offense to that individual. I don't even remember who they are, honestly.
Well, you bring up a really valid point, because that same book, it was the first one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was actually half of it was a cassette tape that was in my car. And we had actually drove from all the way from Maryland all the way to California. I just found it in the trunk, and apparently it belonged to the library back in Annapolis, Maryland. Sorry, guys. I think we wrote that off as a fine. But I didn't have both cassettes. I just had the first half. So I only got to listen to the first half of the book, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad's first book. And it was after that, it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, there's a whole new world. So I think that there's a lot of people out there are going to have a revelation when they actually sit down and read that book or listen to the audio version, as I did. I eventually got the full book, and I took notes, and I went through the whole thing, and it just blew me away, just as it did you. So that being said, so it was that point in time that it just opened up your mind to what the possibilities were.
Yeah, it just opened up my mind to like, I'm chasing the wrong thing, because at the time, like, I was doing really, really well, like as an employee. Like, I'm getting raises, I'm getting bonuses, like, all the good boys, pats on the back, like, hey, keep making this money, essentially. Yeah. And I didn't understand, like, what I could really do to, just, take all the skill sets that I was developing and really turn those into a profit for myself. So that's what really kind of helped change my mind. It's kind of funny that you mentioned taking notes, because that was actually what I did when I read Robert Kiyosaki's book. Like, I went through it the first time, I was angry, so I paused and I came back to it. And the second time I came back to it, I actually took notes. And then I actually read it a third time. This was all literally like back to back, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Like, that's how fired up I got about everything that I learned. But yeah, it was just really like, that's what shifted my thought process to say, hey, maybe I'm operating in the wrong vehicle. And that was actually partially why I got involved in network marketing in general, because one of the things that he mentions in the book is that if he had to start over, that would be one of the vehicles that he would look at doing to create some success for himself. So literally, like, I had like a checklist for like my New Year's like goals for like the next year. And that was like one of the things I had listed was like, join a network marketing company. I had no exact one, but it was like, find a company and join it. So,
couple golden nuggets right there, guys. Again, he found a book, he put the information, and then he put it into action. And then he even went a step further and wrote down the goals he was going to do after reading the book. And if you're listening to this right now, and a lot of people that have a tendency to go to events. I know I've made this mistake in past myself. Been to events, learned something from somebody, forget to write it down, forget to put it in action. It's not doing any good. It's sitting on somebody's bookshelf. So it's like, once you learn something, you get it into action as fast as possible. And that's exactly what you did. And I commend you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, that's definitely a big gap that I see, just, working with a lot of people on a consistent basis, just even like in the corporate arena where I was, building large sales teams and marketing teams for, the companies I was working for all across the country. It's just like, we gotta, get a goal, and then we gotta, put the action in to hit the goal. And the gap between like where you want to go and where you are is the amount of activity that you put in place to actually hit the goal. So yeah, definitely 100%. And that's one of the things that I told myself when I finally made the decision to like really pursue, creating success for myself within the e-commerce world. Because personally, the reason why I've always been attracted to like creating success online and things of that nature is because, I heard a quote once where it said, if you don't learn how to make money while you sleep, you're going to work until you die. So when I heard that, it really had an impact on me. And I was just like, wow, I gotta figure this whole thing out on how I can make money while I'm sleeping. So I kind of looked at it as like, there's a couple different options that, pretty much have like pretty big yields, historically speaking. So you got like the stock market, you got real estate, and then, you got all these crazy guys making a ton of money on the internet. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna actually go the internet route And that's what I tell people. I've been pretty much poking at the internet for 6 years too, because I'm just like, ooh, let me try this thing called affiliate marketing out. And then it was like, well, let me try this thing called, drop shipping. And then let me try this thing called, arbitrage. And I'm just like, but one of the things I never did for myself that I was really good at when I was working full time was that I never truly made the commitment to actually follow through and stay consistent with my action, because the biggest thing about what we do as entrepreneurs is that we put in the work first and then we get paid later. And when we get paid later, we get paid big and we get paid good.
You dropped like so many gold nuggets. I don't know if I can repeat them all. But one of the things that kind of stood out with me is just how happy you are. How your life has changed dramatically. And how old are you right now? Because I know you refer to 21 as when you picked up the first of the books of the Rich Dad Poor Dad series. But how old are you now, so people can understand where you're
27.
You were 27. And what was that defining moment you started to kind of mention where you're like, man, e-commerce is what I'm going to do, and it's where I'm going to be at? Because it's safe to say, I mean, I love school. I've got all kind of degrees and certifications, all that kind of stuff. But I'm assuming that majority of the stuff you actually learned wasn't sitting in a classroom somewhere.
Oh, absolutely not. Like I mentioned, I was part of the American Computer Science League. That was part of what I was pursuing as far as the college route. I was going to school for computer science. And then, I actually ended up in a sales job going door to door when I was in college. And that's actually what caused me to stop going to college, because I was like, man, I'm making pretty good money right now. Why do I need the whole school thing? So I ended up leaving that. But yeah, everything I've learned from, the drop shipping side, the e-commerce side, like everything, making money online, all came from just really plugging in with the right people and getting the right information and putting that into action. So I made the commitment literally like 17 months ago. It was September 2015. Literally, actually September 2nd, 2015, where I made the commitment to myself. And I said, you know what? I got access to a new program called Dropship Lifestyle, and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I've done a lot of silly stuff in the past with paying for different programs, chasing this entrepreneur stuff. Enough is enough. I'm either going to make the commitment to do it or I'm not. And the only thing I promised myself, here was the trick. I tricked myself. I said, you know what, Ernest, you're going to go through this program and you're going to do every single thing that's recommended. You've never done that consistently before in the past, running your own business. You're really good at doing it at work, because you get really great results. You get really great promotions. You're building large sales teams. So why not do it for yourself, man? Just stay committed for yourself. And so I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just do everything that's recommended. This person seems like they know what they're doing. He's successful. And it's so silly because like we hear these cute quote cliches and everything's flying on Instagram and Facebook about, find somebody that's successful and do what they do. Success leaves clues, model successful people. But how many people actually truly do that? And that's literally like the biggest hack I can tell anybody. You want the shortcut? There's a shortcut. So I literally held myself accountable for that. And I just put in the work and I just did it relentlessly as if I was doing it in a 9-to-5 environment, and was able to reap the benefits of my labor in less than 30 days.
Wow. That's awesome. And that was the big thing, just holding yourself accountable, staying focused on one thing and just seeing it through. There's so many people out there. Yep. I know I've made that mistake in my past of starting something and not actually finishing it. So I commend you for that. So what was the help that arrived when you were like, man, I know I'm on the right track. I know this is going to be it for me. And you burn the bridges and you move forward.
Yeah. So here's actually what I'll tell you. And I think this is the first time I've ever talked about this, on a public platform. But what happened was, whenever we make a decision to do something, life always has a way of kind of checking us to see if we're really committed to what we have to say or what we say we're going to actually do. So literally, like, life punched me in the face. What happened was I actually wound up losing every vehicle I had just when I started my new online business. Like, we had everything just kind of blew up. Like, the van messed up, the car messed up, the head gasket cracked, the entire front end assembly messed up on another one of our vehicles. Like, we had 3 cars and they all just got all messed up at the same time. I'm like, how did that happen? So I'm like, seriously? And I'm still working full time. Fiance's still working full time. We both live 30 minutes away from where we got to go to work, and we got 4 kids at home.
Wow.
So that was a defining decision of, hey, Ernest, what are you going to do? So you say you want to build this business. Now what are you going to do? You ain't even got nothing to really build the business, because I was still going check to check at that time. And so I said, you know what? Don't let what you can't do stop you from what you can do. And so I said, you know what? I might not be able to spend $30 a day on advertising, but I could spend $5. I could spend $3. You know, I might not be able to spend 50 cents a click to drive traffic, but I could spend 15 cents. And so literally that's all I did, was I just cut down all my advertising, and I said, I'm just going to focus on doing that, because here's the one thing I can promise anybody that's doing anything online. If you don't got traffic going to any of your websites or wherever you're driving traffic to, I can promise you won't have anybody that'll see you. That's the only thing I can guarantee you. So I focused on the one thing I knew that I had control over, because that's the only thing I control is the traffic. So I kept the traffic coming to the website, and literally because I stayed faithful in that act, I actually wound up getting an order for over $3,000 that gave me the down payment for the brand new Kia Soul that I'm driving right now.
Booyah. That's awesome, man. That's powerful right there. Just going all in. And,
yep.
And Ernest, thank you for sharing that with us and just being transparent.
And here's the other part too, Daryl, not to cut you off, but
no.
the part that really lit the fire under me, and actually I can almost tear up at like what had actually happened, because like we were sitting in the dealership, and like, you know, my fiance, she's looking over at me, we're filling out the paperwork, and, you know, she's just looking at me like kind of, I don't know if anyone's ever had this feeling, like, you know, when they're with their wife or, you know, significant other, whoever it may be, and there's that feeling of like, I don't really trust what you say you're actually going to do. And so like part of that commitment was, you know, having the monthly payment for the actual vehicle itself. And she knew like we were tight. She knew, you know, I started this whole online thing. She didn't really know how much like was going in or out or nothing like that. But she just looked at me with like this feeling of like, are you sure you can do this? Are you sure we're going to be able to make this payment? Like, this is a really big commitment. And the look that she gave me was just like a look of like, it was like, it was just that look of like almost like disgust, like she didn't believe me. Like I was an unaccountable person, and she didn't think that she could count on me. And so when she looked at me like that, like I was like, yep, it's game time. Like nothing else. Like it is game time, and I'm gonna make this thing happen no matter what.
Woo! That's awesome, Ernest. That's what I'm talking about right there, man. The real deal.
Yeah.
Holyfield right here, brother. That's awesome, man. Hats off to you, man. Seriously. You're crushing it now. So bring us up to speed about the discovery that you had that has allowed you to just literally walk away from your job within 12 months after you put this method in place for you. That's what everybody wants to know, because I know they want to leave their jobs. They've got stuff going on in their life. And Ernest, you've given them a story, and you've given them hope that it is possible here for them to make it. What was that?
Yeah, the biggest.
Yeah, go ahead.
The big discovery for me was just, you know, really just getting in the right mindset. Like, because here's the thing, like the vehicle really doesn't matter. Like, there's a lot of different vehicles out here that you can chase, and I love the fact that you're putting together this you know, mindset, you know, thought process type of you know, information that people can get access to from successful people. And like, you know, not that I consider myself to be that big of a success, you know, but you know, the simple fact,
I'll be the first person to tell you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
it. It's possible out there. I think about you, and you're in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, Ernest can do it. I can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But really just getting the right mindset and thought process. And you're going to hear, you know, you've heard a little bit about myself. You'll hear from a ton of other speakers, but really, like, you know, getting your mind right and making the decision and staying committed. And so the biggest thing I can tell you, the secret, the one thing is commitment, like commitment. Now, the definition of commitment is staying true to the decision that you made long after the mood in which you made it in has left you. That's what it means. So that when I didn't know whether or not I was going to be able to afford to pay for ads, I stayed committed to the decision that I made and said that, you know what, I'm going to stick to it and stick through it no matter what. From hell or high water, I'm going to stay committed to the decision that I made because this is what's going to help my family be able to create that additional income. And what happens is you're going to put in so much work and you're going to put in so much time and you're going to do so much stuff that you're now going to you're going to start getting like an overflow and abundance of all that work. Like literally everything is going to just start spilling over like so much. Like, you know, you get to the point where your business that you're pursuing is making more money than what your boss is paying you in a week. And sometimes more money than what your boss is paying you even in a day. You're going to be like, holy smokes. Like by the time it was time for me to transition from work, I was losing money showing up. I was literally losing money going to work. Like, holy smokes.
Hear that? Knowledge is a new currency, ladies and gentlemen. Earnest Epps. Ernest, where can people get more information about you and learn about your story? You inspired me today, Ernest, and I really want the rest of the world to hear more about you. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, buddy?
Absolutely. You can check out my website, which is earnestepps.com, and it's my first and last name, EARNESTEPPS.com. So if you go to earnestepps.com, you know, I'll have tons of information and tools that you can get access to really just help you, you know, stay the course of, you know, what you're pursuing. If you're looking to go like the e-commerce route and, you know, learn some information there, I'll have tons of information, you know, that you can get access to on those subjects. And then, you know, also some other things that I've had, you know, really good success in, like with sales and marketing wise. You know, I'll be posting some content up there for that too as well, because, you know, I really love like, you know, serving and giving back to people. And, you know, like we talked about, knowledge is the new currency. And the reason why, you know, I feel like people, if you knew better, you could do better. See, the only difference between me and you is just the information that we know and the amount of effort that we put in. That's it. Effort and information. Those are the only two things that separates me and who's ever listening to this call right now. So, you know, you'll be able to get the information. The information is there. We're in the information age. There's nothing you probably can't Google at this point. But, you know, the effort piece, the effort is between you and the person that you look at every single day in the mirror. Those are the only people that determine the amount of effort that you put in. So, you know, you'll get the right information, you know, by coming to my website. You'll get the right information by staying plugged into Daryl and the information that he's putting out. So now it's just the effort and the application of the information. So knowledge is a new currency, and we hope you take advantage of that.
And Ernest, I want you to leave us off with, if you were sitting down to yourself when you started this entrepreneur journey, or your younger self, and you can give one piece of advice to yourself when you were starting out on that journey, what would it actually be and why?
I would literally whisper to myself, stay committed, stay committed, stay committed. Don't give up. Because I would be a lot further along had I just stayed committed. But again, the decisions that I made in what I define as commitment, you know, I let my moods determine my level of commitment. And that is what caused me to be delayed in the process. Because literally things can turn around at a snap of a finger, especially in the online arena that we're in today. With the amount of grind that you can put in and set yourself up, that's what I would have whispered to myself and told myself consistently through the years. And we read all the books and we listen to the podcasts and we listen or read the articles and we see the Facebook posts. But, you know, that's what really it comes down to, having that faith to stay committed.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate, again, stay committed, get a hold of Earnest Epps. You know, if you've been this year, get into his funnel, come in contact with him, do whatever it takes to get around people like him, because that's what makes the difference in shifting your mind to monetizing it. Thank you very much, Ernest. You have a great day.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day too. Bye.